Okay, so we're gonna go over sink lines now. I got another one of those Temple Fork LK Legacies rigged up. This is a 7-weight. Honestly, these rods and a lot of streamer kind of specific rods have so much backbone. I'll throw a lot of the same sink lines on either one. So I just happened to rig up the floater with an 8-weight. Does have maybe a little bit more backbone to throw kind of the awkward leader of a longer float line. One thing that's nice about sink lines, some of them, is they kind of make you feel like a hero casting, especially this one, which is just a 10-foot sinking head. Lessons on sink lines probably should be a whole nother episode because there's a million of them of different lengths, sink rates, that type of thing. It's spring in Utah. We don't have a ton of water. We've also been on like a few-year drought. We were floating a river, a bigger river, like I said. We had a float line streamer rod, but we did want a sink line too for some of the deeper runs. But some of the sink lines that I fish that are full sinks or have like 30-foot sink heads with intermediate line after that would have just been too much. We already got stuck enough on that float. What I did is I fished one of my favorite lines. It's the Rio Type 6 10-foot streamer tip line is what it's called, streamer tip. And it's mostly a float line. So you get your nice bright, easy to see color. And it's a nice heavy taper, which is makes it easy to cast. Then it turns to black right here, and for 10 feet, you have Type 6, which is pretty much the fastest sink rate you can have. So it gets down fast, but it doesn't necessarily stay down forever. So if you were on like the South Fork of the Snake, this would definitely get it down to where you wanted in a lot of the spots. But that river's so fast, that float line's gonna end up pulling it up quick. But most sinking line rivers, this line's actually perfect. Unlike the floating lines where we have a really long leader, or maybe kind of long, because we want the fly to get down on its own without the line affecting it. We want the opposite on this. We want the line to bring the fly down and the line to affect the fly's movement. So if you fished an 8 or 9 foot leader, you would have to wait for that line to sink all the way down. Your fly might still be up on top while your line's on the bottom of the river before it starts pulling it down as you start stripping. I think a good rule of thumb is like, honestly, as short as 2 feet of leader to 4, maybe 5 feet at the most. Once again, since I am a loop-to-loop guy, and a lot of people hate loop-to-loop, I guess I'm lazy, I like quick, easy connections. I do put a slightly thicker butt section just to this, so it doesn't cut into my sink tip loop as much. Sink tips are more durable. They're a little bit more resilient to that. On this one, I only have like 20 pound, and then I have my 12 pound connection. So you can see I keep it pretty short. This is a really big fly. I was talking about it in that last video we just put out, and it's a fly by Tommy Lynch out of Michigan. It's an unweighted fly. And it actually has a fair amount of buoyancy because it has a big deer hair head that's carved and glued to be kind of like a diver head. It is articulated, so this fly, when it gets down underwater, dives, darts, moves like crazy. And with enough split shot, you can get it down on a float line, but I don't think it really does it justice. So I think sink lines are perfect. And, you know, I'll fish slightly weighted flies, but if you're fishing flies like dungeons or even buggers, sink lines work great. Just keep in mind that heavier flies on a sink line is gonna change your sink rate quite a bit. This fly is nice and light. Honestly, like if I had this on a float line without any split shot, it would float for the most part. It would act like a mouse pattern. So yeah, that's kind of the spiel on sink tip rigs. Basically, the old Kelly Gallup school of thought still holds true. About 2 to 4 feet is the average amount. People worry about the fish seeing that sink line. I've never seen it really affect getting an eat or not. So keep it short so that line does what you want with the fly.